What's going on, everybody? It's Trevor,
And Tyler.
and we are back with episode 2 of our TnT football podcast, week 13 in the NFL. After last week's very long, stretched week, 6 days, in between games. Pretty exciting. Some weirdness happened towards the end of the week with the Baltimore and Pittsburgh game, but it is what it is. So, real quick, we'll do just a quick recap of last week's picks. Now, keep in mind that this does include the Baltimore Pittsburgh game before it got delayed, and this also has spreads for the New Orleans and Denver game. We all know what happened there. But with the picks that we made, I believe it was Tuesday that we recorded, if I remember correctly. Uh,
Correct.
um, Tyler went 9-7 straight up. I went 8-7-1. I pushed the Pittsburgh game, and then the computer crushed it this week 9-5-1. Again, these are early week spreads, so we'll see a little bit better accuracy this time around. Maybe we can both go like 10-5 or 9-6 this week. Would be nice.
It would.
Would be nice. So that being said, we'll hop right in to the games this week. We got looks like a pretty good balance of early games and late games. My brief takeaway, we got tons of spreads. I think there's, let's see, 4 over 10 or more. And then there's a couple more that are more than 7. So a lot of expected blowouts this week. Anything catch your eye that you're looking forward to watching this Sunday, maybe Monday or Tuesday?
Um, I am excited to see if the Bears can actually win a game the rest of the season against Detroit. Um, uh, but besides that, like actual football wise, I'm interested to see the Indianapolis Colts face the Houston Texans. As you can see right now, the line is -3
Hmm.
towards Indy. I think it's gonna be a close game, and I think some good football is gonna get played.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there probably won't be a ton of great games in the early slate. I'm curious myself to see how San Francisco plays as they're playing in Arizona the next 2 weeks. So interesting to see what happens. We'll get to that when we get to it a little bit later on when we're talking about the game. But I think that might benefit Buffalo more because they were going to play on the road anyway. So it could be a
Yeah.
distraction. You never know. You never know.
Yep. Yep.
Real curious though. You're saying you're seeing if the Bears can win a game. Now, as a Bears fan, do you want them to win another game this year, or would you rather them lose out and maybe get a better draft pick?
I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, they should just get blown out the next what 5 games or whatever it is. No, 4 games.
13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. So
Yeah,
five
so
games.
5 games. 5 games, and then the GM gets fired, head coach gets fired. Uh, that's the ideal situation because I don't think that combination is working out and will ever work out. So
Well, there you have it. Straight from the horse's mouth, as they say.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, let's hop right into game number 1 on our list. First up, we've got the Cleveland Browns at the Tennessee Titans. A matchup of, I believe, both teams are 8-3. Um, they're both, I'd say pretty good teams, but of the teams that have 3 or 4 losses, you'd probably put these guys at maybe the lower half of those teams in the upper echelon of groups. Both teams have some pretty big flaws. Tennessee, with their defense, has just been pretty atrocious all year. Um, this could be a fun game. These are probably the 2 best rushing attacks in the entire league. Obviously, got the two-headed monster of Chubb and Hunt in Cleveland, and then of course you got Derrick Henry. It's getting late in the year. That's when Derrick Henry does his work. So we'll see. Cleveland has not been playing the best the past few weeks. I think a lot of that can be attributed to the pretty poor weather that they've been facing. Really kind of diminished their offense. And I think people might be underrating them a little bit. I do think, all in all, this is going to be a fairly close game. when it comes down to it. I think this of the 12 o'clock games, this will probably be the best game, at least in the AFC side of things. Um, I kind of like the New Orleans Atlanta game as well. But injuries, looks like Denzel Ward is out for the Browns. That's the biggest name, obviously, for them. For the Titans, I gotta find them on my list here. Isaiah Wilson is out, and Adoree Jackson's out. I believe Isaiah Wilson is their starting tackle. Not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure he is. Looks like
Taylor Lewan got hurt, correct?
Correct. So I think he has been their starter
Okay.
this week. I could be incorrect. Actually, so either way, Adoree Jackson is out. Pretty sure he's also a starter. So, does it balance out? Maybe a little bit. There's a couple other guys on the injury report. I don't think there's any other big names for either teams, but yeah, I think this will be a close game. But I'm interested to see what your thoughts are for this matchup.
Yeah. Like you said, this game's going to be pretty good just because uh for the offense for the offenses of both teams, because both of these defenses have not been the greatest. You mentioned that Tennessee's is probably the worst of the two. But the thing is, both sides can score. Tennessee has been scoring, whereas Cleveland has been a little bit more spotty. But hopefully, uh, with them playing a defense that's ranked towards the bottom, they can put some points up and kind of just make this a good old fashioned shootout. Um, Checking on the weather, it is supposed to be 50 degrees at kickoff. It looks like sunny, so that weather omen is not going to be it's not going to be there this weekend for the Browns. Um, I'm interested to see this rushing matchup because right now, um, Derrick Henry has 1,250 yards rushing. Um, I'm interested to see him go up against Cleveland's defense, um, because if they can get him going, then that opens up the play action with Denzel Ward out. That is definitely going to leave at least one side of the field very vulnerable to the passing game, and maybe Brown or Davis can make a few catches and propel the Titans' victory. Maybe not. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
What are you thinking for score and whatnot?
So, like I mentioned, I think this is probably going to be a fairly close game, um, just because of how the propensity of both of these teams to run the ball as much as they do. I also think, there's going to be I think there's 7 games early on. This probably ends up being the one that finishes first, just because there's not going to be a tons of stoppages. So I'm thinking, I know both of these offenses can score, especially with the ground attack. I do think Tennessee is probably the better team. I think they will win. But I think, what I'm anticipating is maybe both teams getting like maybe 6 or 7 possessions and then scoring on like 4 or 5 of them, including a few field goals here or there, something to that effect. So I do think Tennessee is going to win, but I do think Cleveland's going to cover. I will go ahead and take Tennessee 27, Cleveland 24.
Okay.
If I could type, that'd be great. Oh, my text is not black. So.
Yeah. While you're figuring that out, I will.
There we go.
I will start talking about who I think will win. I agree. I think it is going to be close. I think that both teams are going to rely on the running game because Baker Mayfield hasn't been. He's been about average, I would say, this season. Um, he hasn't been quite the number one overall pick. You would expect Um, and why not rely on Chubb and Hunt? I agree with you. I do think it's going to end very fairly quickly. Um, and I think one team is going to break the 30-point marker, and I think it's going to be Tennessee. So I'd say that Tennessee is going to win 31, and I think Cleveland will score 27. So 31 to 27.
All right, so we both got the underdog here. We'll switch it up just a little bit this week. I'm actually going to do, while we're doing this, we'll go ahead and do the computer model as well, just so we can kind of go along with it.
Yeah.
And I did have that set up beforehand. I haven't looked at it myself, so I don't have any biases towards it. So it looks like the computer is on the same side as us. It does like Cleveland to cover for a single unit.
Yeah, and I agree with the computer there. The
Yeah,
one unit kind of, because I can see it because this very well could be uh, Tennessee winning by a touchdown rather than the
right.
3 4 points we're both thinking. So I could definitely see that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh yeah, definitely.
so the next we have the Las Vegas Raiders versus the New York Jets. We have the worst team possibly in the NFL versus us. For me, at least, a pretty surprising Las Vegas team. I know they've had some pretty good wins, but also some really bad wins. I guess it has been officially that Josh Jacobs is out for the Raiders, um, along with Jonathan Abraham, their starting safety. We still have a few questionables, probably game time decisions, so that could be a factor for the Jets. They're just the Jets, so I don't think their injury report really matters because even if they were all healthy, I still don't think they're very good. Let's see. So the Jets have been giving up 29 points a game, whereas they've only been scoring 14 points a game. That's a red flag there. And I think with the weather being 43 degrees, partly cloudy in New Jersey, where they're going to play, um, I think that the Raiders are going to be able to get going and probably put some distance between them and the Jets right away. Um, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Obviously, they got absolutely shellacked last week by the Falcons. This is another case of a West Coast team having an early game on Sunday on the East Coast. Um, but I think Gruden will really have them focused in. I think they were just a little too deflated after that kind of crushing defeat against the Chiefs. They just weren't all there. They also got a little bit unlucky, I think, via special teams and a couple turnovers last week. I think they had 5 total turnovers. It looks like. I don't see that happening this game. I think, to be honest, so my kind of thought on this game is, if this happened last week after the Raiders had that pretty good showing against the Chiefs, I would say you'd probably see Vegas favored by maybe an extra 3 or 4 points. But I definitely think you would see them breaking into the double digits. And then obviously what happened last week, I mean, 37-point loss. I just don't see that happening again. I think Gruden's, he might not be a top 5 coach, but he's a pretty good coach. I think he's going to have them up and focused for this game. I think Derek Carr will have a bounce back game, even though he did get pulled last week. What better team to get into a rhythm again than against what could be the worst team of the last, I don't know, 5-10 years. So Josh Jacobs out. I don't think that's going to matter too much. New York does have some good players here and there. Denzel Mims has been playing well. Mekhi Becton, Quinnen Williams, but I just don't think that the Jets can, keep pace with what Vegas is going to do. I think Vegas is going to pass the ball effectively with Darren Waller and a couple of their speed guys to the outside. So For me, this one looks like a Vegas runaway victory. I'll let you make the prediction first. How about that?
That works for me. So I I want to. I'm leaning towards Vegas, definitely covering. You know, but there's always that chance for the backdoor cover. But I guess that's in any game. So I'm gonna go with Vegas winning. Let's go with a score of. Whew, how many field goals are they gonna? All right, I'll say Vegas 27, Jets 10.
Yeah, Vegas. So that's let's cover that, right? Yeah. Oops, I did the wrong thing there. That's fine. Yeah, I'm more in the same boat as well. I would be surprised if Vegas gets much more than, or not Vegas. Sorry, I would be surprised if the Jets score more than, on two possessions, like put them at 10 points. I think Vegas is going to come out a little, angry, even if they do start a little sluggish in the first half because of the time zone. But I would be surprised if they don't kind of put their foot to the pedal for at least the first three quarters of this game, just to kind of break up their downtrodden last week. So I'm going to also pick Vegas to cover. I'm going to go a little bit more bullish on Vegas. I'm saying 34 to 9, Las Vegas. Calling the
Yeah,
missed extra point.
and I think also, like you were mentioning, how I mentioned earlier that this team has, they're 6-4 right now. They're battling for a playoff spot. So this is essentially I'm not going to say a must win, but it's going to be one of their easier wins on the way to the playoffs. So
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that'll help as well. What's the computer got to say?
That's a good question. So you got to remember this is a 10 point spread. Or no, it's not a 10 point spread. I see the Jets, and I'm like, oh, it's 10 points, right? It's got to be 10 points. It's not. Looks like the computer has. Oh, I have the wrong favorite. I have the Jets favorite. I was like, oh, what's going on here?
Oof.
If the Jets are favored in any game for the rest of the season, I would be absolutely surprised. It does actually have the Jets covering for a single unit. So, uh,
Okay.
hey,
Um,
if it happens, it happens.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
I
think
mean,
I have any confidence. I don't. I'm curious to see what the Jets are against the spread this year. I know they've had a couple close games, so maybe they could have another good one against. You still do have the early start on the East Coast, so anything's possible. Does look like Darnold starting. He is better than Flacco, but I guess we'll see what happens.
so right now the Jets are 3-8 against.
Gotcha. So
So
hey,
well, uh, yeah. I mean,
computer's been pretty good this year, so
hopefully,
we'll see.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see.
Very true. Very true.
All right, moving on to. Didn't mean to do that. Moving on to Minnesota versus Jacksonville. Uh, it's one of the 10 point spreads we were talking about. Minnesota, I'm just curious. I don't remember. I didn't watch their game last week. Oh, that's right. They ended up winning on a missed field goal by Joey Sly against Carolina. It was an up and down game. Pretty entertaining, all things considered. I do think Carolina probably should have won that game. They didn't. It happens. Jacksonville, similar to the Jets, I think they're honestly one of the worst teams in the NFL. I don't think Gardner Minshew's back yet. I think he's still going to be out, but I don't see him on the injury report. Do you know anything about that while we're talking?
I will look it up while we talk.
Okay. Well, anyways, Minnesota, their rush game is obviously, Dalvin Cook's been playing like a man possessed this year. Probably, you know, end up being an all pro. Um, first team, I don't know. I think he'll probably be second team to Derrick Henry. But he, that could go either way. If he finishes out the year strong, I think, even though believe he did miss a few games early on, he's definitely been, if not the best running back, one of the top three in the league this season. I know the Jacksonville has struggled with some injuries on the defensive side of things. They've got a couple of defenders out this week. I don't really know any of them, but it looks like 2 linebackers, so their depth is not going to be there. I think Minnesota's going to run up and down on the Jags this week. They've been playing a lot better these past few weeks. Kirk Cousins is, heated up, especially since the bye week. Since the Week 7 bye week for Minnesota, they are 4-1. Their only loss coming against a Dallas team, which they were probably a little bit unfocused. But Andy Dalton did come back. He was able to exploit, veteran quarterback exploited their weakness in the secondary. So I don't really see Jacksonville being able to keep this one close. Maybe if they have Minshew, I don't know. But everything I'm seeing does look like it is going to be Mike Glennon.
Correct. Even with a healthy Gardner Minshew, Jacksonville is still going to throw out Mike Glennon out there for the game. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know. Jacksonville, they've lost 10 straight since their surprise opening win against the Colts. Still not really sure what happened there. But I have a tough time seeing them being able to take advantage of the secondary from Minnesota. Maybe if DJ Chark is fully healthy, because I believe he missed a few games. They could, maybe keep it close. I don't know. Curious to see what you're thinking about this game, though.
Yeah. So I don't know why anyone would want to start Mike Glennon over anyone. To be honest. But I think that's a mistake. I think Mike Glennon does not give them the best chance of winning. I definitely think Gardner Minshew does. Since Mike Glennon is out there, he's just a tree in the pocket. He can't move. And it looks like hardly anyone on the Vikings defense is hurt. So I could see it getting pretty nasty towards the end with some pretty big hits on Glennon because, like I said, he's just a statue back there. He stands not mobile at all. And I think it's going to be a game that Minnesota takes control early and just keeps the pedal to the metal. I am interested, however, to see if the offense of the Vikings can become more not as run reliant, because I know like last week Thielen was out because he was on the COVID list. I'm pretty sure he's back this game. And with the linebackers being hurt for the Jaguars, Dakota Allen and Correa. I know Correa, I believe, is a starter. And they have one of their safeties and cornerbacks hurt. I would like to see Minnesota just spread out the ball, 4 wide receivers, and just kind of attack this Jacksonville, defense right away. I think they're going to win anyways, so might as well.
Right. Try it out.
Exactly. Because, I mean, you have Dalvin Cook, but if, if something were to happen to him, they're going to have to, kind of sway to a more passing heavy offense. I'm going to pick Minnesota winning. I think score is going to be 27 Minnesota. Let's go 14 Jacksonville. I think they score 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter because they realize how stupid it is to start Mike Glennon. So I think Gardner Minshew comes in and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, so another key thing to note, you have a 10.5, I got 10. So that is pretty big. 10 points is a pretty big number when it comes to this. Just because, that's a touchdown and a field goal. So, my fear for this game is that there's going to be a backdoor cover. Like you said, if Minshew comes in because Glennon's playing like trash, then, he could easily lead them, to get 10, 13, 14 points in the back half of the game. And I think Minnesota, they're probably going to jump out to an early lead. Maybe I guess they could, if it is tight, they could go some more spread concepts. But I would be surprised if they're not, if they don't get a touchdown early, and then kind of run the ball with Cook and I believe Latavius Murray is a backup. I could be wrong. Whoever the backup is. So, that's my fear of this game. I think that there probably will be a backdoor cover. Definitely, I would say Minnesota they're probably on the right side of this with the 10 points. I think generally speaking, they're probably more than 10 points better than Jacksonville, especially at home. But this game to me screams a backdoor cover. They're just going to be playing soft in the second half. Minnesota's not going to put up a ton of points. So I'm actually going to go with Minnesota to win, but not to cover. I'm going to say 24 to, let's see, split here on how many points I want to give Jacksonville. Let's go. Yeah, let's go 24. Oops, there we go. 24 to 17, Jacksonville. Oops. I guess I can just put Minnesota at the end. Gotta follow our formatting correctly. So yeah, I think Minnesota's just gonna be up, playing soft, and 2 minutes, Jacksonville's gonna score, bring this game within 7, but they're not gonna be able to do anything beyond that. So take a quick look at what the computer says for this one here. Looks like it has. It does have Jacksonville for 1 unit again. This is 10 points, and I'm not really big on betting spreads when they get this high, but that's what the computer's saying. So, maybe we'll see some spread action. If the spread does drop below 10 points on this one, the computer would switch over to Minnesota. So, it's really a question of whether Chark, I think, is going to be healthy. I did see there was some sharp action moving this spread towards Minnesota more. I think it opened at like 8.5 or 9, so it has gone towards Minnesota a little bit. So maybe we'll get some more injury news tomorrow or even Sunday morning before the game. So
Okay.
be interested to see. Obviously, I think if Chark goes, pick Jacksonville. If he's not there, I'm probably on Minnesota. So who knows? So
Yeah. So now we have the Bengals versus the Dolphins. 2-8, 2-8-1 Bengals. 7-4 Miami. On this one, I know we both have the -10.5 towards the Dolphins. I'm currently on ESPN, so it looks like there has been some movement, and some odds makers have it at 11. So I'm kind of happy we have it at -10.5. But this game is the burrowless Bengals trying to just stay afloat, I would say, against the Dolphins. Looking at the injuries, Bengals, Tony Brown, Alex Redmond, Brown being a corner, Redmond a guard. I mean, the Bengals' offensive line hasn't been good this year. So does it hurt to have? I don't even know if he's starting, but it can't make him any worse, I don't think. Miami, there's 2 doubtfuls: Salvin Ahmad,
Ahmed, actually.
DeAndre Washington. Was it?
Yeah, I actually pronounce it Ahmed. He's a kind of a new guy.
Sorry.
Yeah, Salvin Ahmed.
Okay. DeAndre Washington is doubtful as well. Then Matt Breida's out. So the Dolphins' backfield is not very healthy. Tua is not going to start. I don't believe. I think it is going to be Fitzpatrick.
I believe that's correct.
So, that again, this -10.5. If I had to assume, the computer's going to go with Cincy just because it really favors underdogs. But I don't see how the Bengals. I don't see how the Bengals are. This is tough. This is a tough one. It's borderline for this one, which way I want to go.
Sure.
Talk me into a direction.
Sure, no problem. I'll do that because I got an idea of where I'm going with this game. So, like you said, Cincinnati obviously has no Joe Burrow. I think it is Brandon Allen. He's going to get the start again. Yeah, that does look like that's going to be the case. He doesn't really have much experience in the NFL, obviously. This will be his fifth start, it looks like. Had a couple starts for the Broncos last year. Whenever Drew Lock was not starting, maybe they had some injuries. I don't really remember last year, to be honest with you. But that's neither here nor there. He's not a good quarterback, excuse me, obviously. The Bengals, I just see them struggling to put up points. I do think this game is going to be very similar to last week's game, being between Miami and New York, where Miami is just going to come out. They're going to get the lead. They're going to try to hold on to the ball. Fitzpatrick, he's smart enough to know that he doesn't have to do too much to win in this game. If he can lead them to, maybe 2 touchdowns and a couple field goals, that's 20 points right there. And then their defense, just let them do what they do. Miami's pass defense, I think, is, easily top 5 in the league, if not even better than that. They're really good at locking down guys. T. Higgins, I know he's been pretty good, but Miami has, you probably say 3 legitimate number 1 cornerbacks, or maybe a legitimate number 1 and maybe 2 really good number 2s. But they have 3 absolutely starting quality cornerbacks. I just don't see Cincy being able to score. I know I kind of said that last week when they were playing the Giants, but if you look at between the Giants and the Dolphins, and you ask me, who's better, well, I think the answer should be quite obvious. The Giants have only won games against the NFC East and the Bengals this year, which should tell you just about all that you need to know about them. And I think Miami is obviously worlds better than either of those 2 teams. I do think that this spread might be also a little bit inflated again. Miami, they didn't have a great showing last week. Not that they needed to, because they played the Jets. And then Cincinnati, they played the Giants kind of close. But again, I don't think that is really indicative of their future performance. They got a little bit lucky. That Daniel Jones went down late in the game, and I think that allowed them to get kind of a late touchdown, a backdoor cover. So I would be kind of surprised if Cincy puts up more than 14 points in this game. So my thoughts here are it's going to be fairly low scoring on both sides. It's going to be just kind of ground and pound, clock control with Miami. And Cincy's going to try to throw, but they're just not going to have success. So I'm pretty confident that Miami's going to cover this. I'm going to go with Miami 24, Cincy 10. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I was kind of, while you're talking, I was looking at some articles, and did not realize that Miami is ranked 2nd in points against and 3rd in pass yards against, I want to say, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, sorry, takeaways, that's what it was. And they also like to blitz a lot, which has been trouble for Bengals. So after reading that, listening to you, I too am going to have Miami laying the points. I think it's going to be Miami 24, Cincinnati 9.
Oh, 9. I like it.
Yep, I just don't. I don't think they're going to be able to get near the end zone, and it's going to be a rough day for Allen. So
Yeah. I will say this is this game. I'm not anticipating this one's going to have that much watchability. If I'm being quite honest, this one probably be ugly and kind of slow paced. Just not fantastic football. If you're watching it, I did see that there may be a chance that Tua starts. I don't know if that would change my mind. I think Fitzpatrick is a little better. But if he leads them if this game is 21-10, then boom, it's cover right there. So, and I'm confident enough that special teams and defense can at least provide one score for Miami in this game. I'd be surprised actually if they don't get a direct score, if they get like a turnover that sets them up in the red zone or something. So, the computer, obviously Burrow's hurt, so normally it would have Cincy for 3 units, but obviously we're not gonna give anything for here just because Burrow's hurt, and that's always a little tough. So uh, I do like kind of a prop for this one, or a different kind of game line. If you can get like something like Miami with half a turnover and Cincy under like 14 and a half points, I do think both of those would probably hit with no problem. Even 1.5 turnovers, I would see Miami in this game. Cincy's just gonna have a rough time holding on to the ball.
Yep.
So yeah, moving on to an AFC South matchup, we have Houston. If I can find the right page, here we go. We've got Houston taking on the Colts. Houston is at home in Houston. I said Houston a number of times. Start to lose, not seem like a word. The Texans, they had a great showing against the Lions last week. Tough to read into that one just because, that ended up being Patricia's last game. So, maybe he was on the way out anyway. The Lions didn't really get up for that game. Who knows? But Texans have definitely been playing a lot better ever since Bill O'Brien got canned. Since their bye in Week 8, they're actually 3-1. Now they haven't played the best teams in the world. They played the Jags, Browns, Patriots, and Lions, and they lost to the Browns, who are the only team that has a winning record on that list. Of course, that was a game where I think it was like a 40 to 50 mile per hour winds and, heavy rain the whole game. So that one's a little tougher to say. But they have been putting up pretty good numbers on offense. It's really a question of whether or not they're going to be able to stop the Colts defensively in this game. Colts have been scoring pretty well. Their worst showing this year was a few weeks ago against the Ravens when they only put up 10 points. Other than that, they've put up pretty much 25 or more points in like the majority of their games this season. There's been a few games that they haven't, but it's kind of tough to see Houston's defense kind of stopping Indy all that effectively. But at the same time, I don't know if Indy is going to be able to stop Deshaun Watson. He's playing, excellent football right now. Of course, the big news this week was Will Fuller is suspended for the rest of the season, so they really only have, Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb. I don't think Cobb is hurt. I think he's starting. And then, obviously, David Johnson, who Bill O'Brien ever so smartly traded away, or traded for to get rid of, a bum and DeAndre Hopkins. Who needs that guy when you got an often injured running back? This game is just tough to call because of the suspension. I think if Will Fuller was here, I would be all over the Texans just because they played so much better these past few weeks, and they are at home for this game. But I think with the suspension, I'm leaning more towards Indianapolis at this point. So, what you got?
Yeah, so looking at the injury report, the Colts have 4 defensive players out as of now. Man. Yeah, and see, the thing is, I honestly think that Houston has a little inflated spread just because of their complete dismantling of the Lions, who ended up firing the coach 3 days later or 2 days later. I don't think that these teams are even, neutral site, because I do think that Indy is a better team. I know that Phillip Rivers is I believe is completely healthy now, um, as opposed to last week where he was still kind of dealing with that ankle injury, uh, and that embarrassing loss to Tennessee. I don't think is going to sit right for um, the Colts, losing by 19 points to Tennessee. I think it's going to uh, kind of wake up the defense, and they're going to have a much better game. Um, I think right now I'm leaning towards the Colts. I think that the Colts are going to cover, and I can see the game being a 24-23 ball game with Indy winning and covering.
So that'd be Houston covering.
Oh, uh, no.
Indy's the favorite.
Oh, Indy's favored. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Just ignore that.
Ignore that last
But
part. The
yeah,
score, you still want the score. You see Houston covering, is what you're trying to say. Okay.
correct. Yes.
Yeah. So there are a couple of different angles as well for this game. I think I mentioned this last time, but I have 3.5, which again is probably the worst number to have um, whenever you're betting an NFL game. But it does also look like DeForest Buckner is playing this week, and it looks like Ryan Kelly, the Colts center, is going to be playing this week. And then I also see that Bradley Roby, who I believe is the Houston safety, is suspended for the rest of the year as well.
So you have Buckner playing because on my injury report
It says
has him as
reserve X, but from everything I'm reading, it looks like he's going to play. I think he was on the COVID list.
Oh, okay, that makes sense then. That
So,
makes sense.
and then, there is another angle here. Obviously, Rigoberto Sanchez, unfortunately, he was diagnosed with that cancerous tumor. Luckily, it sounds like he's recovering well. We wish him all the best. So, I could see Indy getting up for this game. It is something you have to consider, even if it's, it's kind of a weird human element to the game. It's still there, and I do think Indy's going to want to play hard for their guy. And with all the guys, Indy's getting back. I think Houston, everybody watched them on Thanksgiving blow out the Lions, so I think they're a little bit overvalued right now with their suspensions and injuries and everybody coming back. So I think I'm going the opposite of you. I think Indy's going to win. I think they're going to put up enough points to cover, and I think Watson will struggle with his first game without Fuller, who's kind of been his number one target this year. He'll pick it up, the last few games of the season, but I think this first game, it'll be a little tough for him. So I'm going to pick Indy 31, Houston 24.
And while we go with what the computer is going to say, I will talk about that the Colts are 6-5 against the spread, whereas the Texans are 4-7 against the spread as well. So if that helps you guys kind of pick, there you go.
Yeah, so the computer is siding with you on this one. It does like Houston for 2 units. So,
Oh, okay.
Now,
Now,
Houston is at home, so
very
you're
true.
saying Indy is 6 or 6.5 points better than Houston. Tough to say, but yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. That's the fun of what we're doing right now, right? Trying to figure it out. So, moving on to Detroit and Chicago. This is a battle.
Toilet bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Chicago, they still got an outside shot at the playoffs. Let's give them some credit here.
Okay.
Uh, so this one will be interesting. Obviously the first game without Matt Patricia as the head coach for the Lions. Probably a net positive for them, given how so many players that either played for him or are currently on the Lions are basically going on Twitter and other social media platforms and basically just saying, "Yeah, man, nobody liked you. You suck." um, so that's definitely something to consider. Of course, it's always a little bit difficult whenever you are missing your coach or you do make an in-season move. What are the it can be one of two things. I don't think they really have a great option. I think they're offensive coordinator is going to be the interim head coach. I can't remember the guy's name, but I'm like 90% confident that he does not have previous NFL head coaching experience. Whereas, Houston, they had Cornell step in, and he obviously has coached as a head coach before. So I think that's a key angle here. Obviously, we all saw Chicago get shellacked on Sunday night. I think they lost. I think it was 41-25 or something like that. And to be honest, the game was not as close as that score would seem to indicate. So I actually think both teams. I'm curious, actually. I'm thinking about it. Let's see here. I want to make sure I'm giving the accurate score. So yeah, Green Bay won 41-25, and Houston won, and Detroit lost 24-41. So very, very similar results against a couple different teams. So if you take that as a, just is what it is, okay, you say, is Houston only 1 point worse than the Packers? Probably not. They're probably a few points worse. So then you look at, okay, the difference between their losses last week was 1 point. So that kind of pushes me to lean towards Chicago in this game. Trubisky is starting. I think he is. I don't know how far superior, but he's definitely better than Foles. The offensive line for the Bears looked better last week. And then there does look like there's quite a number of injuries on Detroit. Jeff Okudah's out. Kenny Galladay's out. Matthew Stafford's still dealing with his thumb. Looks like he'll play. And then a couple of other guys are questionable for the game. So right now, before I hear your thoughts on the game, I'm leaning towards Chicago. You got a spread of 3 that basically says, odds makers are saying these teams are even, and I think Chicago is going to be quite a bit better in this game. So
Yeah. So fun fact that last week's game against Green Bay was the second highest scoring game for the Bears the entire season.
Oh, really?
The other one being the Atlanta game where they scored. Oh, sorry. It was the third highest scoring game. I did not see the Lions week 1. But yeah, so 25 points is kind of what we're aiming for this week. Going back to week 1, the Bears squeaked out a win 27-23 against Detroit. I know Trubisky had one of his better games that week.
Mhm.
And I hope to see improvement there because being benched for whatever this 8-9 weeks it was doesn't help a quarterback. He showed signs of rust. He also showed signs of why he got benched. At the same time, he's better than Nick Foles in my opinion because he does have the dual threat aspect to him. Nick Foles, just like Mike Lennon, is a statue in the pocket. After, I want to say, his third or fourth game behind the Bears offensive line, he was seeing ghosts out there, Nick Foles, and that's not the case with Trubisky. When he does throw an interception, yes, he does have that kind of dumb-looking face when he's looking up at the big board. But I can get over that because he's going to rush for probably 40, 50 yards most games.
Mm-hmm.
I, too, am leaning towards the Bears just because of the Bears' defense. It's still, I'm not going to say elite, but I'm going to say it's above average. And I think they would be elite if they had a better offense, but it's tough being an elite defense when you're on the field, for 65% of the game because your offense goes 3 and out every possession. So,
Oh yeah, no, I believe you.
I'm leaning the Bears as well. I do think that the Lions are going to keep it close just because there is that sense of rejuvenation because the cancer has been gotten rid of, but I don't think it's going to be enough just because of all the injuries. Well, Kenny Galladay looks to be out, and besides Marvin Jones, I don't know who
they got TJ Hawkinson. He's pretty good.
Eh, I mean, I guess. I guess. But if Kenny Galladay was in the starting lineup, the Detroit offense would be better.
Sure.
So, um, right
Yeah.
now, I'm ready to go with the Bears winning with a score of. Huh? Are they going to score more than 25 points? No, they're not. The score is going to be 24 Chicago. Let's go 17 Detroit.
All right. Yeah. I'm also looking here. It looks like Akeem Hicks is questionable for the game. I'm looking at a couple different areas, and it's looking like more a no rather than a yes. But I don't know. I just think, I think this is a pride game for the Bears. You know, they want to get back to 500, even if their offense can't do anything. Which, you know, Detroit's not great on defense, so certainly a possibility. You know, maybe they can score a couple touchdowns, get a field goal. I know the Lions. From what I've recalled this year, I don't think they have great special teams either. I could be mistaken on that, but from what I think, I don't think they have a very good special teams unit, where the Bears do. So I think this game is, you know, going to be a lot of field position. Um, Again, I expect Chicago to take the ball away a couple times. You know, they've got good linebackers, even if Trevathan's not the best cover linebacker. You know, I think Roquan Smith can kind of put the clamps down maybe on Hawkinson, and you know they've got enough talent. I think they'll get a couple turnovers and maybe a couple big special teams play. I do think this one will be fairly low scoring. It seems like you are leaning that way as well. But I do think I honestly think that this game will push. I think the Bears are going to end up winning by 3 points, 3 points only. So I'm going to go Chicago 20, Detroit 17. We'll call that push here. Well, I guess that push isn't winning. Chicago's winning. So that'll be a push. What color do we like for that? Let's do a
Yellow or like orange?
yeah, we'll do
There
an
you go.
orange. That's kind of tough to read. We'll do a darker orange, I guess. There we go.
Perfect.
That's a
And
Bears orange right there, baby.
and while you're on and looking at the computer really quick, the Lions are 4-7 against the spread, whereas the Bears are 5-6. So it matches their record.
There you go. I think the Bears. I think the Bears are 5-6. I think what you're looking at might be just a tad outdated because I'm pretty sure they played 11 games.
Yeah,
That's not correct.
what I say? I
4
meant
and
to say
6.
5-6.
5-6. Okay.
So I meant to say 5-6.
So the computer is on Chicago for a unit. No surprise. You know, 3 points, home field more or less, and you say these teams, you know, they are fairly similar. They're fairly equal. I think Chicago's just a little bit better because they, you know, Detroit did fire their head coach. We'll see what they can do, but I would say these teams are about equal at this stage in the season. So it makes sense that Chicago's on. You know, Chicago's probably a little better, so you take them when they're even per the spread odds makers are putting out there. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, move on
All right,
to.
so the next game is the Falcons versus New Orleans in Atlanta. Um, this game right now looks like I have them at -2.5, whereas you have them at -3. Actually, counting that it's that close in my opinion, but looking at the injury report, we have New Orleans. Kind of their injuries are kind of spread out throughout their team. Looks like Janoris Jenkins is officially ruled out, as well as Marcus Davenport, their defensive end. Falcons, Julio Jones, Todd Gurley are questionable. Their guard, James Carpenter, is out. And those are kind of the big injuries that I saw at a glance. These teams are on two different ends of the spectrum. The Saints have been rolling as of late, whereas the Falcons have been hit or miss this season. Um, do you know is Drew Brees is still out, correct?
That's what I'm looking for. I believe, yeah, he's on the IR, so I don't think he's eligible
Okay.
to return until maybe even next week. But I know he's not eligible for this week.
Okay. Yeah. So Taysom Hill is going to be
Yeah.
leading the charge against the Falcons. Um, right now, the Falcons coming off of that big one against Las Vegas, but the Saints are also coming off that big win against Denver. Little different situation. Las Vegas just didn't show up to play, whereas Denver, their quarterbacks couldn't show up to play. So, um, yeah, what are you thinking in this game?
So for me, this game really comes down to whether or not um, Julio Jones plays. Um, I think that's the biggest thing for this game. I think, tell you the truth, with Breeze out, if Jones was healthy, I would say Atlanta is maybe even better than New Orleans. At least as of late, they've been playing very, very well. They are, let's see, 4-2 in their last six. One of those losses was to the Lions, so I mean that happens. And then obviously they got beat by the Saints. Saints have maybe the best defense in the NFL. But I'm pretty sure, if I remember that game correctly, I don't think Julio Jones was playing, or if he did, I think he got hurt in the second half. I'm thinking about that. Yeah, I think we were watching that one, and I think Jones kind of he played the first half of the game, might have been limited, and then he re-aggravated his hamstring injury. So if I could say, if you could guarantee me right now that Julio Jones would play in, I'd be all over the Falcons to cover this game, and I honestly think they would win straight up. But it really comes down to him right now. It looks like he practiced on Wednesday, but he was limited, and then he missed yesterday's practice, being Thursday. So that's something to monitor going forward. I'm not betting this game until I hear exactly what happens with him. If he is playing, again, I'm going to be all over the Falcons in this game. I think they'll win. Um, if he doesn't play, I think New Orleans will probably end up winning. But I do think this one will be close. Excuse me, sorry. I like Taysom Hill, but he's not a very good quarterback. Um, and the Falcons have been playing way better as of late. So um, I'll make my pick, assuming that Jones does play. Obviously, check the injury report. It probably is not going to be known until kind of late Sunday. So if you're betting this game, wait to see what Jones is going to be. But again, this pick that I'm going to give, this is assuming that Jones is going to play. I'm on the Falcons. I think they will win 30-21. So big upset in Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna disagree with you. I think that New Orleans is a better team regardless if Julio plays or not. Um, just because if Taysom Hill can't be a good quarterback, he can be a really good running back. And the past two games, he scored two touchdowns each game. Um, and I think that's just going to be trouble for uh, the Falcons' defense. Um, their defense hasn't been very good, anyways. Granted, they've been giving up more pass yards as opposed to rush yards. If you kind of balance out throughout the league, they're kind of probably a uh, bottom half of the league in terms of pass yards allowed, whereas rush yards, they're much better than that. I still don't see how the Falcons are going to be able to uh, score points against this defense. Um, the one thing is that Jenkins is out. Now, that does open up the possibility that if Julio Jones does end up playing, there's going to be a number 4 receiver on a really good slot receiver. I forgot who it is, but I know he's been killing it for the most part. Um, see, it's the -2.5 that I'm very comfortable with. Now, if this is up like 4 or 5, that's kind of when I'm a little bit more cautious. But yeah, essentially, my spread is saying that the Falcons are point, a half a point better than New Orleans, um, which I don't see. So I'm gonna say that the Falcons are going to win. Did I say Falcons?
Yeah.
I meant New Orleans are going to win, and I think they're going to win the score of 27-24. Um, New Orleans laying the -2.5 for me. So
And that would be a push for me. So I guess if you're using mine, you probably bet. I don't know if you'd bet the underdog if you're expecting a push or not. That's a good question. I never thought about that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not exactly sure because I think the computer would pick the underdog if it was that close.
right.
Just because it tends to favor underdogs, and it seems to be working.
It does indeed. Yeah. So this one is actually on the. Sorry, losing my train of thought there. It's on New Orleans now. This one's a little different just because obviously Breeze isn't playing, so whether or not you want to adjust for it. It is only one unit, so it's siding with you. One last thing on this game, the Falcons. They obviously have three pretty horrendous losses versus the Cowboys. The Bears game, they probably should have won that game, and then they lost to the Lions. So I think even if even if you give them two of those games, all of a sudden their record jumps up to 6-5, and I don't think you see a 6-5 team, even if they are playing New Orleans, who's probably the best team in the NFC. Um, I don't see them being a 3-point underdog if they're 6-5 against a Drew Breesless um, New Orleans team. So those losses did happen. You can't just throw them out, but they're probably a little better than the record says, and I think, yeah, just like I said, if Drew Brees, he's not there obviously, and if Atlanta was a 6-5 or maybe even a 7-4 team, if they got lucky, three of those, I wouldn't see them being a 3-point underdog here. So that is what it is. Moving on to the New York Football Giants versus the Seattle Seahawks. It's the first of the afternoon slate on Sunday, depending on if which kicks off first, this or the Arizona game. We all saw Seattle on Monday night. I'm assuming a fair bit of people watched that. It was an NFC East game versus Philly, and people like watching Russell Wilson cook. Ended up being a closer game than it otherwise would have been because of the last second Hail Mary. So if you had 6.5, I feel sorry for you because getting that Hail Mary and the 2-point, putting them only getting a 6-point victory. I think we both had 5.5, so we lucked out a little bit there. And then the Giants, we all saw them have a pretty close game against Cincy. I think I touched on this earlier when I was talking about the Cincy game against Miami. But the only teams that New York has beaten are Washington twice, Philly once, and Cincy is their other win. And, those three teams are probably, I don't know, all in the bottom 8 of the NFL, if not lower. I mean, you got the Jets and the Jags, and then besides that, it's probably Cincy and the entirety of the NFC East this year. So they have not beaten anybody good. They haven't really played anybody close except for the Buccaneers. This is excluding the first 2 weeks when they had Saquon for the entirety of week 1, and then obviously they lost him in week 2. But they haven't really played anybody yeah, they're just not a great team. I do think Daniel Jones is probably out for this game. I'm not 100% sure. I know he was doubtful, so it looks like Colt McCoy will start. Seattle's defense has been playing better as of late. Again, they also haven't really played super tough competition. They played Philly last week. They played Arizona 2 weeks ago. Obviously, that was when Kyler Murray kind of hurt his shoulder mid-game. And then they played the Rams a few weeks before then, which they lost that game. And then a week before then, Buffalo put up, 40 points on them. So this one's a tough one to call. I don't, 11 points is a huge spread. But given how Seattle's defense has played recently, and Russ is going up against a pretty porous Giants defense, I think we'll both agree Seattle's going to win this game. Right now, I'm leaning towards the Seahawks, but maybe you can convince me otherwise.
Yeah. If Daniel Jones was playing, I would feel a lot more comfortable, possibly going with the Giants to cover. But with him being doubtful and Colt McCoy starting in his place, I just don't see it happening. Granted, the Seahawks defense has been really porous this season. They are one of the worst defenses in the NFL, but they're 8-3 because their offense has luckily been able to keep up. Yeah, just looking at this game, I think Seattle is probably going to win by at least 14, so that 11 points doesn't scare me too much. But again, you just never quite know. Luckily, if Daniel Jones doesn't play, I know I will not be betting this game just because of the rule of first week the starting quarterback is out. Don't bet. So I would stay away from this game. But if I was forced to, I would say that Seattle's going to win. They're going to win probably 34 to probably 13. Yeah, because the weather. I'm pretty sure the weather is going to be perfectly fine in Seattle. So I don't think Russell's going to have a hard time throwing it to Metcalf and Lockett and all of his weapons.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you though. I'm probably more likely to stay away from this game. I do think if Jones started, I think this could be a decently close game. Although if Jones was starting, the spread would not be at -11. You'd probably see it in like the somewhere between 5 to 7 range. I'm guessing. I would probably say like 5.5 or 6.5. Because New York and Philly are pretty equal, and that's what the spread was last week. So, but yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't think this is a game that I'm really comfortable betting. 11 points is just such a big number. If your team is down by 17 late and you happen to get a touchdown, well, boom, there's your backdoor cover right there. And like you have right now, Seattle's up 34 to 13, and New York gets the ball back with like 3 minutes. They score a touchdown. They wouldn't cover necessarily, but that just it would put it real close.
And they go for the onside kick, they get it,
and then a Hail Mary, 2-point conversion like we saw last week.
So things happen.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree with you. I think there's pretty much no question. This is going to be a Seattle victory. Just 11 points is a lot. Russ is great. It's just too big of a spread. I would kind of stay away from this. If Jones starts and you can get like a -8 or a -7 somewhere, I would consider it then. But I'm in agreement. I think this you've got it pretty much locked on. I'm going 31 to 14 Seattle here.
Yeah.
Or both.
Yeah. And maybe the play, like if you want to chance it that Jones does play, you bet it early while it's the plus 11, and then come Sunday, if he's officially ruled out, just cash out if you're allowed to.
There you go.
I mean that could very well be a smart play, but yeah, it's
Hmm.
up to you. So
Yeah, no surprise. The computer model would have Seattle or New York with this, just because the spread is so high. Um, the computer would be on the Seahawks for anything higher than 6.5. So um, if you get 6.5, I would go with the Seahawks. You know, it's saying the Seahawks are probably going to win by 7. Anything 7 or higher than that, hopefully that made sense. I would be going with New York if Jones plays. So
yeah.
move
All
on
right, so moving
to
to the Rams and the Cardinals. Um, this is the uh, is this their second meeting this season?
that. Sounds correct. Let me pull open the schedule.
Um,
No, they play in week
no.
17.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah. So this is the 7-4 Rams, 6-5 Cardinals. Looking at the injury report, and for the Rams, it does not look too bad at all. Terrell Lewis has been ruled out. No idea who that is, so probably doesn't matter in the scheme of things. Um, the Cardinals, they have some injuries on defense. It looks like two of their safeties, one's listed as out already, and the other one is listed as questionable. Uh, and then we have a defensive lineman, Rashard Lawrence, questionable, and a defensive end, Angelo Blackson, is also questionable. Um, I think that this game being at 3 for me and 2.5 for you definitely intrigues me. Um, the Rams have a very good defense this year, probably led by, I mean, in all honesty, probably the defensive player of the year. In I'm
You're talking about the Rams guy, Aaron Donald.
yes, Aaron Donald. I knew it was Aaron. I just couldn't remember his last name. Aaron Donald. Um, he's going to be a nightmare for Kyler Murray. Offensively, though, they have been struggling a little bit, which kind of scares me. Kind of scares me with them being 3-point favorites against Arizona. Um, the Cardinals' offense has been really good this year. Probably a top 10, top 12 offense, right around there.
Yeah, I think.
Um,
Sorry to interject. I think they were number one in yards just a couple weeks ago.
yeah, I mean they have 411 yards a game, which is crazy. It's just a lot of times those drives do end in field goals. Um, I know their kicker is one of the better fantasy options, um, but their defense is probably middle of the pack. And against that uh, not so good Rams offense, I like that matchup a lot. Um, if the Cardinals are able to um, limit the Rams wide receivers to kind of those underneath catches, um, I can see the Cardinals pulling off the win. That's kind of the way I'm leaning right now. Um, yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think looking at this, I thought I was actually incorrect when I was looking. I'm really honestly surprised that Arizona is actually not favored in this game. I'm surprised Los Angeles is favored. Um, it's crazy to me, you know. So I think you can kind of see where I'm going with this. This would be, we're not putting units out for our picks. You know, we're just kind of assuming it's like a 1-to-1 thing. But if I did units, this would probably be my biggest play of the week here. I know Murray he did get hurt in the Seahawks game Thursday night, and then he was a little bit. I think he wasn't at 100% against the Patriots last week. You kind of see that in kind of his play. But young quarterbacks have always struggled versus Bill Belichick. So excuse me. I think maybe that's kind of leading into why this spread is what it is. My gosh, apologize for the coughs. Um, I don't know. I just I like Los Angeles, well enough. I don't think they're a fantastic team. I think their record it kind of flatters them a little bit, maybe, because you got to think they have. Let's see here. Got to make sure I'm stating this correctly. So they have four. What are they? They are 7-4, and wouldn't you know, four of those wins are against the Eagles, Giants, Washington, and Cowboys. So are those really wins? I mean, they are wins per the record books, but does that tell me that the Rams are really 7-4? No, probably not. They also beat the Bears, which I know you're a Bears fan, but the Bears are not a very good team. Sean McVay is a way better coach than Matt Nagy. I don't think there's anybody that can argue against that. They did beat the Seahawks. They did beat the Buccaneers. So obviously they have some great personnel. Getting pressure up the middle is really effective against a lot of great quarterbacks. But I think with how Kyler Murray's been playing this year with his legs and whatnot, I just don't see. Yeah, Aaron Donald is obviously going to have a big effect, but I just don't see the Rams being able to win this game. Not sure they could. I mean, I don't want to say I don't see them winning this game, but I am all over the Cardinals this week. I think the wrong team is favored here. So I would be surprised if this spread doesn't shoot, it doesn't, either switch to a pick or it doesn't, flip entirely. We are getting kind of late in the week, but this is a weird week for betting just because all the NFL, it stopped on Wednesday. So it is a little odd, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what your prediction was, and then I'll give mine as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I mean, with wins against like Dallas, Philly, Jets, or not Jets, sorry, Giants, the football team, the Bears. Really, looking at their wins, there's only two, in my opinion, respectable wins, and that's being against Seattle and Tampa Bay. The Seattle one, they were coming off a bye week, and you know how bye weeks are. Some coaches are better than others. I'm not sure if we kind of had noticed that pattern with McVay or not yet. And you know, if like I said while we were kind of like explaining this game, if the Arizona Cardinals can stop Jared Goff from passing down the field, instead of going vertical, he has to go horizontal. I think that plays in their favor. I mean, just looking at the kind of the rush leaders for all of the Rams games, a lot of the games we're talking about, like, 20 yards against Tampa Bay was the leading rusher for them. 38 the week before in the Seattle game. If they can stop the pass game, the Cardinals are going to, I think, win pretty handily. But again, that's a pretty big task, especially against Sean McVay and the Rams' pass game. But I think they can do it. So I'm going to take the Cardinals winning. I think the score is going to be 27-24.
What's that 14? 24. And that's Arizona.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. I know you mentioned, I think you mentioned the win against Tampa Bay. Another thing, so, the two wins, honestly, with being against the Seahawks and the Buccaneers. So the Seahawks, obviously, McVay coming off a bye. Anytime you get a good coach coming off a bye, you tend to favor them. They come up with a good game plan, especially when you got so many weapons as Seahawks do. You can eliminate one of them or really clamp down on like DK Metcalf, because I think Metcalf in that game that the Rams beat the Seahawks, he might have had like 3 targets total or something. But I guess that's a little bit besides the point. So And then in the Tampa Bay game, if you remember, that's the game that AQ Shipley got hurt, which unfortunately ended his career with the neck thing. I don't remember exactly. And then Ali Marpet, who is the left guard, I believe, um, he also got injured that game. So when you have two interior linemen, and you have probably the best or second best defensive lineman of the past decade, well, that spells disaster for sure. Um, so, you look at that, and honestly, the Rams' schedule, you can say Seattle is a legit win. Tampa Bay, I don't really know. So, is their only real legitimate win against the Bears? And you really count that as a legitimate win either? I mean, they have like no wins on their schedule that impressed me. So, um, I think Arizona's going to win by quite a bit more. Actually, I think I'm going to go with like a big play here. I think Arizona's going to end up winning this game 31-17. So
Okay,
maybe
very nice.
if you're feeling confident like I am, and you can get a good number, this 2.5 number that I have is actually plus 102. So uh,
Yeah, and
if you can,
that might be
go ahead.
gone.
Go ahead.
As I say, that might be a good. I forgot exactly what it's called, but where you kind of give a little bit. You give up some of the odds for a better kind of spread. You can either do that or you can do the opposite. This might be a good game to do the opposite, where you take some of the points and kind of maybe make Arizona the favorite in the game. That
Hmm.
way you can get more of
A payout.
return. So
Yeah. Just for curiosity's sake, if I wanted Arizona at 2.5, I'd be plus 150, which is and it just straight up they're plus 130. So um, I don't know. I would just be very, very surprised if Arizona is not the better team in this game. Now, it doesn't always mean they're going to win, but I would also be shocked. We'll pull the numbers from the computer model. I'd be shocked if Arizona is not a huge play in the computer model as well.
yeah,
Yeah, they're.
I can see this
Oh, good.
our highest unit play this week for sure.
Yeah, they're 3 units. So, no shocker there.
Yeah.
I don't know. The spread, you're saying, are you really going to tell me that the Rams are 6 points better than the Cardinals? If you're saying that, man, I got a bridge to sell you. Anyways, moving on to the Chargers facing New England at home. So, obviously, New England coming off a victory against Arizona last week. Kind of went right down to the wire, if I remember correctly. I think the Patriots won on a walk-off field goal, or maybe the Cardinals missed a late second field goal. I don't remember exactly what happened. I think it was a missed field goal by Zane Gonzalez at the end. No, it was Nick
I
Folk. So
believe
I'm
you're
going back and forth.
correct.
So Nick Folk did hit that's right. He hit a 50-yard walk-off field goal. So, we got Bill Belichick going up against Anthony Lynn. This might be one of the biggest coaching mismatches of the year. Um, so, personnel wise, if you had equal head coaches here, I'd think that the Chargers would be like a 5.5 point favorite here, just because I don't really think New England is a very good team, but they are incredibly well coached. Um, so, I think Herbert, I mentioned this last week, I think he's been a top 5 quarterback this year. The one caveat with this game is, and I don't know, I don't have the numbers offhand, but um, whenever Belichick goes up against a rookie quarterback or a first-year quarterback, I don't think first of all he's ever lost against a rookie quarterback, or if he has, it's maybe only 1 or 2 games in his entire career. And then Murray, last week you saw it, he's kind of a young quarterback too. So um, that being said, I don't know. I'm kind of split right now. just because I think the Chargers are much better, but just Anthony Lynn, man, you got to get him out of there. You got to bring in a good coach, bring in Eric Bieniema from Kansas City, or someone like that. You'll get Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma or something. Really coach him up and allow him to flourish, because with a competent head coach, they'd be favored by at least 4.5, 5 points. So, but it is part of the game. So, I'm probably, I really need to. I'm split on this one. I need to hear your thoughts before I make my pick. Um, before you get into yours, just what I'm thinking offhand is I'm probably gonna take New England to cover, but I want to hear what you're saying first.
Um, yeah. So I mean, if this was just battle of the coaches kind of per se, I think that New England would be uh, the big favorite. But at the same time, um, you know, sometimes sometimes it's about the X's and O's, but sometimes it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. And I think that the Chargers have a superior team in almost every facet. I think that Cam Newton, in all honesty, should not be a starting quarterback. Uh, I shouldn't say shouldn't be a starting quarterback because he could go to plenty of teams to start and be better. But he shouldn't be a playoff caliber quarterback. I guess that's what I'll say. He's not he should be starting for the New York Jets and not the New England Patriots is kind of what I'm getting at. He has 4 passing touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Granted, he does make up for some of that with his rushing, but he's just not very good anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas Justin Herbert has been probably rookie of the year, I would say.
No, I think he's absolutely rookie of the year. He actually has back-to-back rookies of the month. So I think
Oh wow.
he's all but locked it up at this point.
Yeah, so I mean, Chargers win there. In terms of running the ball, the Chargers have been dealing with injuries at the running back position. So uh, Harris from New England probably will take it there. Now, let's talk about defense. Looking at the injury report, the Chargers have a few injuries on defense. Uh, right now, from what I can see, is there's one doubtful Denzel Perryman. I want to say he is a starter on the uh, for the Chargers. You also have Casey Hayward, cornerback, who's questionable. Uchenna, can't say that last name, but he's questionable.
Chenna Nwosu.
Yep, Nwosu. So that could hurt the Chargers, especially in the run game, especially with Cam Newton's rushing ability.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots, granted, Bill Belichick uses the injury report kind of to his advantage. If someone breaks a nail, they're on there as doubtful kind of thing. Uh, they seem to be for the most part healthy. There are quite a few questionables. The big one being Cam Newton, but I don't see a way that he's not playing. Yeah, so I'm leaning towards the Chargers just because Justin Herbert has been remarkable, and I just don't think Cam Newton can carry any teams. He's a player that you can't win because, and I think that the Chargers can win because of Justin Herbert. So I'm definitely leaning towards the Chargers, especially with it being pretty much essentially a heads up play. So before I want to check the weather, yep, sunny. So I'm gonna go with Chargers are gonna win. Score being, let's say Chargers 21. New England 17. That's what I'm feeling right now. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I look forward to the Chargers getting a better coach, more offensive minded coach for Herbert.
Hey, maybe how about this? Maybe Belichick is had his fun in New England, and maybe he goes to like L.A. next year. How about that?
Ooh, that would be
We'll
that'd be
start the
pretty.
rumors, huh?
Yep, yep.
No, that's probably not happening. Yeah. So while you were discussing what your pick, I did look it up. So Belichick is 11-0 at home against rookie quarterbacks, and he's 19-5 overall. So 8-5 on the road against rookie quarterbacks. Now that does include all the for lack of a better term bums that have been in the NFC or AFC East over the years. Darnold, Tannehill when he was in Miami. Um, Gosh, I can't even think of Josh Allen. He's playing really well this year, but his rookie year was not great. Among other
Mark
quarterbacks,
Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez. Hey, AFC championship game participant Mark Sanchez. Let's not diminish his accomplishments. I think he did that twice. Who knows? But I do think I don't know. I just think the personnel advantage in this game is just going to be too much. So I agree with you. I think LA is going to win this game, and I do think they're going to cover. I don't know what the line opened as. I didn't really check. Um, so I'm curious to see what happened. I don't know. Just Newton, like you said, he's not really. He's bottom third in terms of starters this year. I think he has been banged up, but then again, he has been banged up for the last 4 or 5 years, even when he was with Carolina. So part of being good is being available, and he struggled with that at times. It's a little unfortunate. He was great fun to watch during his MVP season and his Super Bowl appearance. So a big key for this game, I think, Joey Bosa looks like he practiced maybe on. Did they practice on Tuesday? I don't remember. He did not
Uh,
practice on Wednesday though. So
as I say, I don't think they do on Tuesdays. I think it's more like film and stuff.
gotcha. Like walk through and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practices. I think
Yep.
that sounds correct. So it looks like he did not practice Wednesday. So I'll be interested to see if he practices. If he practiced today, being Friday, I haven't seen anything about that. But I think it's just gonna be too much. I think this is one of the games that Belichick is gonna go. He's going on the road. I think Herbert's just gonna be too much. We've seen Herbert against some pretty good defenses this year. Um, Tampa Bay they've got some good defense, and we saw how well he played. He put up 21 against the Dolphins, and I think the Dolphins are, they're maybe the best pass defense in the league. So um, we'll see. Injury. There's a lot of injuries in this game. I think it's gonna be big, but enough with the back and forth. I'm also gonna pick LA to win. I do think it'll be a low scoring matchup as well. I'm gonna actually piggyback. I'm gonna say LA 21-17.
Yeah. So looking at it, it looks like the line has moved by half a point towards the Chargers. They opened up as a 1 point favorite. So
Gotcha. So that means the sharps are on them as well. So, and the computer model also likes them for a single unit. So, kind of echoing what we've been saying. Close game, tough to call, but we think the Chargers are going to pull this one out. So,
yep. So we move on to the last of our afternoon games. Or sorry, nope, never mind.
well, I mean,
Oh yeah,
you call the
I,
last one an evening game. I'd say this is the last
sorry.
of the afternoon.
Yeah, sorry. I saw the 4 o'clock for Monday. I was like, what? Yeah. So this is the last Sunday afternoon game with the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Lambeau to the Green Bay Packers. Philadelphia is coming off of a loss, 3 straight losses, as a matter of fact, whereas the Packers are coming off their Sunday night win against Chicago. Right now I have the game as -7.5. You have it as -8.5. I don't think that makes too big of a difference in the grand scheme of things. Looking at the injury report, Zach Ertz is questionable. Darius Slay is questionable, and Rudy Ford, safety, is out. Green Bay Packers. I still have Corey Linsley is out, but that's from November 30th.
I
Um,
think he did have an MCL sprain. I think he will be out this game.
yeah. Okay. And then we have Tyler Irvin, questionable, but that really doesn't matter. Zadarius Smith, though, is listed as questionable. Um, I think he plays from what I'm seeing, and that's going to be a big help to that defense. Uh, I think this is a game where I think the Green Bay Packers are um, going to cover. I I I'm I don't want to say I'm certain, but the way that Carson Wentz has been playing, um, and just the kind of the the matchup of Philadelphia's offense versus the Packers defense, um, it it could be a game where the Philadelphia Eagles might only have a total of 250 yards total offensively. Um, and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He's been playing like uh, like an MVP. He's definitely going to be, you know, in the conversation at least, somewhat. So I want to hear your take on this thing.
Yeah, so kind of the question, that we could throw out here just to give people an idea of what I think this game's going to end up like. So, the Eagles have wins this year against the 49ers, which that was, I think, the first or second week after Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. That's Sunday night game. And then they have a 1 point victory against the Giants on Thursday night, where the Giants probably should have won that game. And then they had a 9 point victory against the Ben DiNucci led Cowboys. So, and then they tied the Bengals. So, the NFC East, we all know it's probably the worst division that I've ever seen in my entire lifetime. Even worse than the few years ago when the Seahawks made the playoffs at 7-9. I think it's miles worse than that. All four teams are easily bottom 8 this year. They might be 30th, 29th, 28th, and 27th best teams after the Jets and Jaguars. They're just horrendous. So I know you can't really do this, but if you take those two games out, then the Eagles really only have one win against a non-NFC. They only have one win against a non-NFC East team. And, Green Bay, obviously we just saw them thrash the Bears. It did also look like Fletcher Cox missed practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, if Lindsley's hurt, that's obviously sucks. He's played really well this year, but the Packers have Elgton Jenkins, who's played all 5 positions on the O-line this year, which is absolutely nuts, if he can just do that. But even more so, he's played them incredibly well. I actually, I'm a Packer fan, so I know a little bit more about the Packers, kind of their personnel groups and stuff like that. So from what I understand, this is probably going to be the case that Lindsley's going to end up walking because he is hurt pretty often, even though he's a very good lineman, and Elgton Jenkins is probably going to be their center moving forward unless they find somebody else. But I just, this to me, this seems closer to the Miami versus Cincinnati game, or even the Kansas City versus Denver game, where the spread should probably be in the double digits. I just don't see Philly being able to keep up with Green Bay. I know Green Bay does like to kind of take their foot off the pedal in the second half this year, because they have had great success scoring in the first half. But to me, this game screams, okay, Rodgers going to throw for 3 touchdowns in the first half. Philly's going to have a tough time putting up any kind of points, and the Packers are just going to run away with this one, similar to what they did on Sunday night versus the Bears. Another quick thing, I know Zadarius Smith. I think you mentioned he was on the injury report. Um, he's played with the Packers going on his second season now. I think maybe 3 seasons. I'm pretty sure this is his second season with them. I think he's probably been on the injury report maybe 75% of the weeks that he's played. He always seems to be nicked up, but he always seems to play with them. And I don't think it was anything serious. So I would expect him to play and pretty much be in there for 80%, if not 100% of the regular snaps that he would take. For me, this game, I think this goes very similar to the Sunday night game against the Bears. Excuse me. I think the Packers easily cover this spread. I would not be surprised if they win by more than 2 touchdowns. Um, I'll go with a pretty sizable win here. I'll say the Packers at 40 to the Eagles 17.
Wow. So okay, well, I was gonna bring this up. Right now, the over/under is set at 48 points for this game.
Interesting.
So, in thinking that,
I should check the weather, huh?
with the spread, it's supposed to be a high of 38 Suns. So,
Okay.
yeah. With that, with looking at the spread at being, pretty much 8 points, I'd say, combine the two. We're looking at like the score being 28 to 20 is what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't see that happening at all. I don't think that Philadelphia's offense is capable of that against this defense. Granted, now very well could come to be just like you said. The Packers do let up in the second half, but at the same time, they did that against the Bears, and it still ended up being a 19-point game or something like that. So I'm not going as bullish on you, but I also think that the Eagles aren't going to score 17 points. So I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers winning 35 to the Eagles 14.
All right. Take a look here, see what the computer says, and it is also on the Packers for a unit. No surprise, this is a pretty big spread.
Yeah.
Anytime you get a big spread like this, it's tough to. I don't know if it's tough to have a lot of confidence, but when you have a model like we've built that tends to favor the underdogs, whenever you have a big favorite and they're going to be favored, well, you're really only going to have that level of confidence at like a 1 unit play or something like that. So it is what it is, and yeah, why don't you take the Sunday night game, kick us off here, moving into the back half.
Um, I'm using ESPN for a lot of the stats and injury reports and whatnot, and gotta say, Broncos bringing QBs to KC to face Mahomes and Chiefs. That's good to know. Good to know. Just kind of like that headline says, Denver is supposed to have a quarterback on the roster this week, unlike the previous week. Drew Lock has been, I'm not gonna say good. He's had flashes, but his touchdown to interception rate is not very good. He has 11 interceptions to his 7 touchdowns. Looking at the injury report, we have Trey Marshall is out, Jerry Jeudy, Philip Lindsay, questionable on the offensive side of the ball. No really glaring injuries for KC. The Chiefs are favored by 13.5 points. Big spread. I'm not a fan of big spreads like this. Luckily, it is not 14 points. But at the same time, it's hard to say that Denver is 13.5 points, worse than Kansas City. Like the only teams I could say that about are probably the Jets and the Jaguars.
Maybe
It
some
might
NFC East teams too.
be very true, especially against Kansas City. But Denver, they always seem to play their division rivals tight. I want to say that their last one was against Miami. Last one against that before that was against the Chargers. Again, a uh, opponent. The last time they played the Chiefs, it was not pretty. Um, Looking at that game, I Locke had 254 yards passing. Um, Mahomes didn't really have to work very much. He only had 23 attempts in general. Uh, the game got out of hand towards the second half of the game, just because the Chiefs were up 24-9 at that point. Um, I It's all going to depend on how Drew Lock plays. If you think he can um, at least be a game manager and not turn over the ball, I think the 13 and a half points it shouldn't scare you too much. But Drew Lock seems like a gunslinger, um, and I think he's going to have at least one, if not two, interceptions. Um, it's going to be interesting to see this team with the quarterback, since last week it was entertaining to watch. Don't get me wrong. Um, the Chiefs coming off a close victory against Tampa Bay, a close victory from the Chargers, a close victory from Carolina. It's the past three games they have not played. Um, I guess like how most people expect the Chiefs would. They expect the Chiefs to just blow out teams, but the past three games have all been close. Um, eh, Again, I'm still debating on whether 13 and a half points. I think the Chiefs are going to win. It's just whether or not, are they going to win by 14 or less? So
Right.
that's kind of where I'm hung up on. How about you?
Yeah. I, I like the Chiefs. I think they are probably the best team in the NFL. But I think one thing people are not considering is that, um, as good as Patrick Mahomes is, their defense hasn't been maybe as good as it could have been, considering the number of starters they returned from their Super Bowl team last year. I'm just looking at some past scores, and you mentioned this. Their last three games were fairly close, really close actually. They were all within 4 points. They beat up the Jets, but who doesn't beat up the Jets? The game against the Broncos before that, that was like I think two turnovers, and then I think the Chiefs had a special team score.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that was that really that game. The score was very deceiving.
Yeah, exactly. And then they beat the Bills after that was one of the games that was moved because of COVID reasons. They lost to the Raiders. I'm going back through the whole schedule. So really, you got to say their biggest couple legitimate wins this year. The Ravens on Monday night, and we all know the Ravens are not quite as good as we thought they were. Um, and Mahomes, for whatever reason, has owned the Ravens, sorry, and Lamar Jackson just seems to not play very well whenever they play the Chiefs. The Texans during opening week, and we all know how good Andy Reid is with extra time to prepare, and the Patriots 26-10, and that was also a weird game. I think that one was also moved, or there was something that was Cam Newton missed that game, I believe. So they really have only had like, if you consider a 14-point victory a blowout, which you probably would, they've really only had three blowouts due to their offense this year. And they've only won, I want to say, three games by more than 14 points. They did win two by 14 points. So, Drew Lock is inconsistent. I think they're out to prove something this game after last week. It's obviously very tough Maybe the one advantage, maybe their quarterbacks, after they found out, they couldn't play on Sunday, maybe they get like an extra couple of, day or two to kind of game plan for the defense against the Chiefs. I don't really know. Um, I think the Chiefs are going to win. I don't really think that's a question, but I do think Denver is going to cover this game. Just so many points, there's bound to be a backdoor cover, but I think Denver will keep it a little closer than that even. For me, I like the Chiefs. I like them 34-24.
Yeah, and looking kind of at our picks, we really don't have very many backdoor covers. Like I think we're thinking that Tennessee, that they're just gonna straight up win. Like they're gonna have the ball, you know, towards the end of the game and kind of just run it out. Whereas Minnesota, again, maybe like that's probably a backdoor where maybe Gardner Minshew comes out for that backdoor cover. Backdoor covers are the bane of bettor's existence. Um, I, I'm leaning to agree with you for that backdoor cover, especially 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Denver's driving with the ball. The score is the KC's up by. I mean, even if it's 14 points, I still think that some of their key guys aren't in. Um, maybe they are, but I just think they're playing a lot more lax, a lot more kind of underneath coverage. So I think that the Kansas City is going to win. So I'm going to say Kansas City. Let's go with Kansas City 31, Denver. Probably Denver 20.
All right.
Yeah, so that'll again backdoor cover Denver either scoring a touchdown with like 2-3 minutes left or kicking a field goal around that same time. So
Yeah. Looking at the model, this has Denver for a single unit. Made some updates and uh, yeah. So previously with our model, they would have been a 3 unit play, but we've made some tweaks and dropped this down. I don't think Denver's. It's tough to bet on teams that are in the bottom third of the NFL with great confidence, especially when they're going up against maybe the best team. But 13.5 points is just so big. It's tough to have a lot of confidence in them being able to do that. I think the spread's a little inflated just because of everybody's infatuation with Mahomes.
Yep.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
All right.
So then we have our kind of oddball game, a Monday afternoon game with the Washington football team going to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. The Steelers obviously coming off of that weird week where they played on a Wednesday when they were supposed to play almost a week prior on Thanksgiving Day. Right now, it looks like McLaren is questionable. The Steelers have both Big Ben and Steven Nelson as questionable. Steven Nelson being a cornerback. This game, in all honesty, I know it's a Monday, but that's still one less day than a team playing on a Monday night has when they're playing on Sunday. And Washington essentially has had a few extra days to prepare. That 7 number, I wish it was like 7.5. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Washington is on a 2-game win streak. They absolutely thrashed the Cowboys. They beat Cincinnati after Burrow got hurt. Steelers, like I said, they're coming off that Baltimore win where they did not look very good. They could just not finish in the red zone, and their offense just was struggling to perform. Uh, Weather is supposed to be 38 degrees. I'm leaning towards. I think Pittsburgh. I think they win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than 7 points.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. I don't know. This one is very tough just because of the reasons you mentioned. Washington obviously played on Thanksgiving, and now they're playing Monday, which is basically like a bye week, if you wanna say that. Ron Rivera is a fine coach. I don't know. I think Mike Tomlin's certainly better. I think Tomlin's maybe a top 3 coach in the NFL. I think Pittsburgh will get up for this game. It's just a real, I didn't have the luxury of watching the whole game because of the really bizarre start time, like 3 o'clock on a Wednesday. Like what? That's just very, very weird. But I listened to it on the radio a little bit, and I watched the tail end of the game, and I don't know, the offensive game plan for Pittsburgh was just incredibly confusing. To tell you the truth, I didn't really know what they were doing half the time. They also came out pretty sloppy. They probably should have scored a couple more touchdowns in the red zone. My only thing with this, it's tough for me to say that Pittsburgh is 7 points better than most teams in the league. I know they're undefeated, but I think that's a little bit misleading. They've had some wins that have kind of come down to the wire, like the Ravens, the first time they matched up, where maybe there could have been a pass interference call, but, came down to the last play. Tennessee, they won by a point after Gostkowski missed that field goal. They only beat Philadelphia by 4 points, and Philadelphia is pretty bad. So it's not like they've really had great success at beating teams by a lot of points. Their biggest 3 wins are against Cleveland, where, yes, they absolutely demolished Cleveland. Or, sorry, they did not beat Philly by 1 point. I must have been looking at something else, but it was close anyways. They beat Cleveland by 31 points, so, yeah, they absolutely demolished Cleveland. They beat Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh's defense is really good. Burrow is a rookie quarterback; it's kind of what you expect. And then Jacksonville, they beat Jacksonville, but you also got to consider they were, the Cowboys played them pretty close. Even the Broncos played them close. The first year of the game against the Giants played them pretty well, and so did the Texans in Week 3. So. It's just some weird scheduling stuff. They also had a very early bye. They had a Week 4 bye this year. I think it'll be a little tough for them to get up for this game. And I do think Washington is probably the best team in the NFC East. But that being said, I don't think they're very good. We both set our part. I think... Honestly, I'm thinking that the most likely outcome is that Pittsburgh wins by like 7 points or 8 points. But I think, if this were any other team besides an NFC East team, I think 7 points, you pick the underdog. But I just don't think that's going to happen in this case. I think Pittsburgh talent's going to win out, even if they are a little sluggish to begin. I just don't think Washington is going to be able to move the ball effectively. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I think this one will also be fairly low scoring. I'm going to go 21-13 Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So you're talking about kind of going over some of the past scores, and I was like, I looked at the schedule and realized that so far they've played 6 teams who I would probably rank in the bottom, maybe 4th of the NFL. Maybe Denver, third, top or bottom 3rd, but their schedule has been very cupcake, I would say. Um, and I I was luckily able to watch the entire game this past Wednesday. I
Were you
watched.
lucky, or did you have the disfortune?
Well, yeah, I was lucky enough to at least watch football. I'll say that.
Okay.
Now, was it good football? No. I was just not impressed with the Steelers. I thought they would be able to absolutely stomp a mud hole in the Ravens just because the Ravens were starting Griffin Jr. or sorry,
Robert Griffin the third.
Robert Griffin the third. Yes.
It's getting late
Um,
here.
yep. The third. He was just it. I mean, granted they did stop him, but at the same time, it, they allowed too much to happen.
Mhm.
Um, their offense did not impress me. I think Ben Roethlisberger, his stats are very deceiving. Um, he he reminded me like good old Graham Harrell at Texas Tech. They're just throwing screens every other play. If it wasn't a screen, it was a swing route to the running back. It I think this is probably one of the worst under like 11-0 teams I've ever seen. Um, offensively, defensively, yes, they did their job. They stopped Baltimore, but I feel it could have been much more dominant. I do think that Big Ben is going to get pressured by Chase Young and the Washington defense. I think again he's very statuesque nowadays, whereas back in 10 years ago he could actually move somewhat. That's not the case anymore. So I'm leaning towards Pittsburgh winning. But I wouldn't be surprised if Washington wins. But I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh winning. I think the score is probably gonna be 21-17.
All right. Pull up the computer model here. Looks like it's got Pittsburgh for a unit. So, got a good balance so far, I think.
Yeah.
Heading into the final two games, we've got pretty, underdogs and favorites. What you want to see, common kind of thing is maybe the favorites are going to cover in, 52-53% or so, but. So, Buffalo at San Francisco. This game is being played in Arizona. If you didn't know, I'm sure you do. So this, we're saying San Francisco is the home team, but it's really more of a neutral site game. I did mention this kind of earlier on in the podcast or video. I think that benefits Buffalo a little bit more than it does San Francisco. San Francisco also has next week where they're playing on the road as a home game in Arizona. Buffalo's already coming to the West Coast. Where does it really matter? Are they playing in San Francisco or are they playing in Arizona? I don't really think that makes too much of a difference. Obviously, we know San Francisco has just been absolutely ravaged by injuries this year. Kittle's out, Garoppolo's out, Sherman's out. There's so many guys that I can't even really tell you who they have. I do know Raheem Mostert's back for this game. I think he played last week as well, so that bodes well for them. But if we're if this were like the Super Bowl or something, a true neutral site game, I don't really see how you would say San Francisco would be favored in this matchup. I think the Bills are better, and I'm actually going to check because I'm kind of questioning whether or not I have the right favorite. I think San Francisco's favored. Is that what you wrote down as well?
Yes, that's what I have. Although on ESPN it has them at even.
Okay, so
So
even when you're saying teams are even, technically you're saying that the home team is the underdog. I think. I
yeah, by
can't even
3.
I can't even bet this game right now on my platform. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if this line flips again to Buffalo, just because I think they're the better team. I honestly think, I could see them they're probably the third best team in the AFC behind Pittsburgh and Kansas City, and I think there's a legitimate argument for them being better than Pittsburgh. I don't think they're better than Kansas City, but Pittsburgh, obviously they're undefeated, and you can't take away wins. And Buffalo has slipped up a few times. Just looking at their schedule, I know they lost to the Titans early in the year, and the Chiefs. That was on back-to-back weeks. To me, those you can't just throw those out the window. But I don't believe. This is going back a few weeks, so I could be incorrect. But I believe what happened was Tennessee, or they were scheduled to play the Chiefs, and then that game got pushed back because the Titans had to take an early bye unexpectedly due to COVID, and then they ended up playing the Tennessee Titans. So it was kind of like Buffalo was game planning for two different teams at the same time, which if you're doing that in the NFL, well, you got no shot at winning either of those. So, I think if that game were to be played right now, I think Buffalo would probably go and beat Tennessee or at least make it a lot closer. And then their other losses were to Kansas City, again on the back to back. No shame in losing to Kansas City. And then they lost to the Cardinals on that last second Hail Mary. So, in all honesty, you probably would look at Buffalo, they probably, in a regular season, they might be, 10-1 right now or 9-2. Um, and I know San Francisco just won against Los Angeles last week, but I'm really shocked at where this line is. And, especially given that it's in a neutral site, I would have expected, if you didn't tell me anything, you just said, hey, Buffalo going into Arizona to play San Francisco, I would have told you Buffalo, yeah, they're favored by 4.5, 5.5 points. And so that means we're getting like 5.5 points of value right now. So, that's
Yeah,
without discussing any of their teams. So I just, I want to hear your thoughts as well.
yeah, and I just looked, and I is still the San Francisco is favored by 1.5 points on my platform, which is incredible. I think. But yeah, so Buffalo has no one on the injury report. San Francisco has Emmanuel Mosley and Kawan Williams is listed as out. Mostly is questionable. Yeah, just like you're saying, I think Buffalo is a really good team. Um, I think that Josh Allen um, is a quarterback who can both throw the ball and run the ball. Um, I think that even with Garoppolo, uh, uh, I still don't see San Francisco winning, especially with the whole move and everything. I mean, it's not just them playing somewhere else. It's them practicing. It's them practicing somewhere else. It's them essentially moving somewhere else. We're talking about there might be guys with families who are able to see their kids every day, but now since they moved, they're not able to that has an effect on players. So I think that all leads to Buffalo winning in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think that uh, is George Kittle playing or is he
I
out?
thought he was just out for the rest of the season. I could be incorrect. Let me see if I can find some better info for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I thought they would at least have him as out on the injury report, but I
Yeah,
think
I
with
don't think when players are on IR, they technically have to be listed as on the injury report.
okay, yeah. So I mean, without George Kittle, that it's going to be tough for Jimmy Garoppolo to find success. Brandon Ayuk is back. He is pretty decent, but I don't think he's going to have that great of an impact. So I'm going to say that the Bills are going to win, and I feel comfortable with saying the Bills winning 27. San Francisco. Uh, let's go. Let's go 20.
Snap us. Yeah, I'm right there with you, but I'm actually gonna make another bold prediction similar to my Los Angeles Arizona game. Um, these two being, I think the spreads are flipped. I'm gonna say it's gonna be even bigger. I'm gonna go 31-17 Buffalo. But either way, we're both on the same side here.
Yeah.
I would be honestly very shocked if we go into Monday and this line hasn't shifted like more than at least to even. But I would be surprised if it's not like 2.5 or 3.5 by the time we hit Monday night. So
Yep.
big play this week. If you're looking for a parlay, we didn't discuss any parlays last week, but Arizona and Buffalo, give me that all day, every day.
I'm right there with you. Like, and if you can get the money line, because like we both agree that we think they're going to actually win the game.
hmm
Even if you can kind of get a little bit more juice, picking them as minus favorites, not yeah or favorites. That might be a very good play as well.
Oh yeah,
So.
for sure, for sure.
All right, so the last game on the schedule
Sorry,
is on it.
gotta
Oh
click
yeah,
the
sorry.
the computer real quick. Um,
Let's see if the computer agrees.
Indeed, let's do it. Uh, yeah, no surprise here. It likes the Bills for 4 units, which I believe is the biggest that we've had in our first 2 weeks. Yeah, we didn't have any
Yes.
4 unit plays last week, but we got a 4 unit one this time. So,
Yep.
not. I don't think that shocks either of us. To
Yeah.
tell you the truth.
Yep. And like as you can see, if you look at who we pick, who we think is going to win, those are the underdogs are like Buffalo and Arizona. Those are the bigger unit plays. So
hmm Yeah, the
you're
only
like you're
one, the only multi-unit play we have this week that I'm not on the same side is the Indy game. Like last week, I know we still got one more game, but we were both on Arizona, which we ended up losing actually. So we should have been on the wrong side. Denver, we could kind of throw that one out, but Atlanta, um, Tampa, and Chicago. Well, Chicago, yeah, but
yeah.
the computer was 3-1 in those matchups. So, anyways, getting back to
Yep.
the last game, take it away.
Yep. Which is the Dallas Cowboys playing the Baltimore Ravens on a Tuesday. Looking at this, in my opinion, I think it's a little unfair that Pittsburgh has to play a day before Baltimore, especially when it's Baltimore's fault that um, this had to be moved. I kind of wish it was the other way around, to be honest. But it is what it is. This game, we have Baltimore favorite as 7.5 point favorites. Lamar Jackson should be back, along with everyone who was on the COVID list. Um, yeah, this game, I don't know how to feel about it, in all honesty. I mean, I think Dallas is not very good, especially with Dak out. Their line situation in Dallas is not very good. There are quite a few injuries on defense. It looks like uh, some kind of more depth. Others like Alden Smith being questionable does give me a little bit of a concern. Uh, Looking at Baltimore, however, um, again they should be getting everyone back who was listed with COVID, uh, and right now it looks like Chris Moore was activated on today. Don't even know who that is. He's a wide receiver, probably a guy.
I don't know him either.
Yeah, but in terms of questionables, a lot of it is on defense. So even if 25% are actually out, that's a good chunk of depth. So if you see an injury or two, I know for example, Marcus Peters was, I believe it was Marcus Peters. Uh, he tweaked his hamstring or groin
Hmm.
in the game. He's not listed on the injury report, but I know from, and I'm sure you know from Play Sports, that just because it feels good the next day doesn't mean when you actually get to playing and whatnot, um, you definitely could re-aggravate it. So you know, depending on who is out, uh, I would be cautious. Besides that, 7.5. I'm not a big fan of. I'm leaning towards Baltimore winning, um, but I don't think they're gonna win by 8 or more points. That's kind of my thinking. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's probably correct. This line, I believe it assumes that Lamar Jackson is going to start, which I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. I don't think he's officially eligible to come off until Sunday. I do agree that this is kind of BS in terms of Baltimore and Pittsburgh. You know, why does Baltimore get an extra day of rest for like basically no reason? I don't. I know they don't want to have three teams play on Monday night because they're not going to get enough, revenue out of it. But it's kind of a, I don't know. It's just kind of a weird situation overall. Um, I don't know. To me, the Ravens this year. Again, you look at the teams that they've beat, and what are their impressive victories? They got the Browns in Week 1 where they blew out the Browns. Yeah, that's a legitimate win. You got to give them that. The Texans, Texans are not very good, but they still took care of business um, by I think 17 points or so. And then other than that, they beat Washington, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and then Indianapolis. Now Indianapolis is obviously the best win out of those, but you got to consider that in that game, Darius Leonard went out, who's probably the best linebacker in the league, and having a top, we'll call him a top three inside linebacker against a scrambling quarterback like Lamar Jackson. Obviously, that's a huge key. And then ever since Ronnie Stanley's been hurt, um, their offense has looked pretty abysmal. I know they played New England where it wasn't like the greatest conditions, obviously, especially towards the latter half of the game, but they didn't really look that good against Tennessee. They only put up 24 points, and Tennessee has one of the worst defenses, maybe in the AFC, if not the entire league. So you would have expected them to put up more points, having the reigning MVP. Um, but they're really trending down hard right now. I know Dallas is obviously pretty poor as well, um, but I don't know if they are again more than 8 points worse than Baltimore is right now, especially if Lamar Jackson can't go. Um, Again, it does look like he's going to go. It does sound maybe like Trace McSorley is getting put in the game plan a little bit with the assumption, because Jackson's status technically is up in the air. Because I don't think you're guaranteed to come off the reserve list just because a certain time has passed. So keep an eye on that. If you're confident that Jackson's going to start, you might want to take Baltimore, but I'm a little wary about that, and I'm definitely leaning towards Dallas in this game. Potentially, even if Jackson starts, depending on what the spread ends up being. If it's like an 8.5 or even an 8, I still might think about taking Dallas. I know betting on NFC East teams is kind of dangerous this year, but the Ravens, similar to all the um, AFC North teams, have gotten to beat up on the NFC East this year, so they've got some cheap wins in their pocket, and they're probably closer to like a 500 team. Maybe even less than that, especially with all the injuries that they've had. Losing Ronnie Stanley, especially, is key there. So, yeah, I don't know. My prediction for this game, making the assumption that Jackson is going to start, I think this is going to be low scoring. Do you know what the weather is going to be? Just out of curiosity, I haven't looked that up yet.
The weather is supposed to be 45 with sunshine.
Gotcha.
Well,
So
I would say
that probably
never mind
won't be big.
sunshine. It's at night. It's supposed to be partly cloudy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I know also Dallas. I think Zach Martin got hurt on the Thanksgiving game. I don't know. I think Dallas will cover, but this is a game that I'm probably going to stay away from. I don't really know. With the delays, Dallas having extra play time, Jackson's uncertainty, offensive linemen out for both teams. It's just, this one, it's real tough, but I'll give my prediction, assuming again that Jackson's going to play. I think this will be like a 14-20 game in Baltimore, or 20-14 Baltimore. How about that?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. With Jackson not performing very well this year, um, I think it's gonna be a lower scoring game. Uh, so I'm gonna go. Baltimore 21, Dallas 17. Um, I think that Baltimore might very well be losing going into the fourth quarter, and they score the go-ahead touchdown sometime in the fourth quarter to take the lead and finish off the game. But yeah, I again, this is presuming Jackson is playing. If Jackson was not playing, I still think Dallas will win, but I think it'll be even more low scoring and probably by like a point or two. So
Gotcha. Yeah, you think Dallas will cover? Yeah, I would probably agree. Although the line will probably shift more than a few points if it turns out that Trace McSorley's starting. I wouldn't be
yep.
surprised if it's like a 2.5 or something if Jackson can't go here. The computer model, also assuming Jackson starts, is on Baltimore for a unit. But yeah, this one, I don't know if I want to bet it very much. To tell you the truth, so
Just kind
yeah.
of stay away from it and
We got other plays this week. I mean, we've got two like just shockers with the lines. Honestly, I know. I mean, we're not professionals here, and again, this is for entertainment purposes only. But I'm just absolutely shocked that both San Francisco is a favorite against Buffalo, who I think is a top 3 team in the AFC, and that Arizona is an underdog against the Rams.
yeah, I'm right there with you. I, I think that you know the the bookmakers are definitely taking into account like the hype of certain teams, and it seems like the lines haven't moved very much since the start, since Tuesday. So I think some people are betting with their heart and not with their head.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they're good at what they do, so
yeah,
they'll probably, they're going to win out in the long run. Here's hoping, this many big spreads. I think it's just conjecture on my part, but I think typically when you see that as a casual bettor, you're like, oh yeah, is Kansas City like 14 points better than Denver? Of course they are. Yeah, I'm gonna put some money on Kansas City. Well, those big ones are. I think those are ones where people can fall into traps. It's these smaller games that you really gotta make your money on if you're gonna do this for a living. I mean,
yep,
maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know, but
yep.
yeah. So
Um,
we'll do a quick recap here.
and
Let's
just
see.
make sure the computer is going off of your spreads, correct?
Yes, they are going off of
Yep.
spread number 2. I think. Let's take a look. I want to see if there's any changes. Obviously, this game, nothing. This one, it would be on the same side, same number. Let's see here. This one, same side, same number. Same side, same number. This one's a little tougher, but I believe it's also the same side, same number. Yes, it is. This one we're not betting using the spread or using the computer model. This one is also the same side, same number, being Arizona and Los Angeles. Uh, this one's the same spread. Same thing here. That's another point. Now it's also the same side, same number, and then the rest of these, I believe, are all the same. So um,
Yeah. Okay.
it looks like they're all the same. I think there might have been one difference last week when we were looking at them, but It seems like no matter which site you're using, this should hold true for the most part, and we're hoping it
Very
will.
nice. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, just do a quick recap. Similar to last week, it looks like we're kind of the later games we tend to lead towards the underdogs. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 favorites and 7 underdogs. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 favorites, 7 underdogs, and a push. If I were betting this game, I'd probably bet on Chicago. I don't know if I'll bet it though. And then the computer, will highlight these underdogs as well. Just realized I had New York as the favorite in this spreadsheet, not in the computer model though. So it's got this one, this one, this one, not this one, not this one, this one, not this one, not this one, this one, no, yes, and yeah. So it
Awesome.
has 6 favorites. It looks like if I'm doing this correctly. Yeah, 6 favorites, 7 underdogs, and then 2 no bets. Which, when we ever see a no bet, it generally means that the computer is favoring the underdog, but there's an injury that's shifting that line, a certain number of points. So, looking over it,
Hmm.
you see any games you want to flip, or you're pretty comfortable with what you got here?
Uh, I think I'm feeling pretty comfortable.
All right. I think so too. I might think about the Chicago Detroit game a little further. I might end up switching that one over to Chicago. Maybe they get 3 touchdowns instead of 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, and end up winning 21-17, which of course would mean that they cover the spread. So
Yeah.
again, definitely keep an eye. Big games in terms of injury reports. Um, for sure, New Orleans, Atlanta. Is Julio going to play? Is he not going to play? New York, Seattle. Is Daniel Jones going to be active? Um, but I don't really think. And then Baltimore and Dallas. Jackson playing? Yes or no? But I think that'll take it to the end of this episode. Good episode. This one is quite a bit longer than the last one. I think we're actually like an hour longer than our last one. But we just get to talk about football, and you kind of lose
Yeah.
yourself, man. It's
You do. You do.
it's a good time. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, I appreciate leaving likes, comments, subscribe. Let me know. Let us know if you agree with our picks here. We'll be sure to link our other YouTube channels in the description here. Um, I have a gaming channel. I'm playing some Madden 08, old school classic Madden, and some Binding of Isaac, and then I'll probably end up throwing a couple other games. You can find me over at Trev the Dev, all one string, and then you go ahead and give a shout
Yeah.
out here.
Yep. So my YouTube channel is xTxBlackoutXrX. Over there, I do a lot of trading card games, like Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh. So you can check me out. Again, all one word: xTxBlackoutXrX. Can't wait to see you over there.
Yeah. So we'll be sure to link those in the description as well. But yeah, hopefully we have a good week. Another weird week. We got a Tuesday game. Hopefully all the games get played. No more delays. But we'll see if we can't hit these picks. Have a good week and see you here. Probably, I think there's a Thursday night game next week, so this will probably go up on Wednesday next week. This one should go live if you're watching this sometime Saturday. But until then, we will see you all in the next video. So,
See
see
you.
you.